What's going on, everybody? This is Wade with Full Throttle Detail with my 2015 WRX, and today I'm going to be making a tutorial on how to install a blow-off valve on this car the right way, step-by-step process. And to all of you who are looking to buy a blow-off valve, there's really not much on the market right now. Right now, this is a TurboXS dual-port 50/50 hybrid valve. 50% vacuum, 50% atmosphere, or I think that's what it is. You got your blow-off port, these two blow-off ports in the back here. You got your bottom port and your main port. So I'll be showing you guys exactly how this works in a second. I'm going to take it apart and show you and explain some difficulties people may be having with these these blow-off valves and a solution to fix the problem. So as you can see here, guys, I have the top of the blow-off valve here, and I'm unscrewing it to show you guys the spring and the washers that are inside. As you can see, it's got the spring, that's the cap, and then you have it came pre-installed with 4 washers in the brass fitting, and they did that for me because I was having issues with the first blow-off valve. So as you can see, that's the brass valve on the inside. And then I'm trying to get that last washer out. And then you have the 4 washers, and I'm showing you how to lay them on the spring. And they go down onto the brass valve. They fit right into the brass valve. And as you can see, I laid them down and put the spring in, and you put the cap back on. And this can be a pain in the ass, but if you are patient with it, you'll get it. So you screw it on all the way to the tightest setting, and yep, that's pretty much it. Very simple. At the top you have the vacuum port too. Just wanted to point that out. It also comes with a set of spare washers, zip ties, and a vac line for the top of the blow-off valve. Okay, guys, so I've gathered all the tools that you're going to need to perform a complete uninstall of the stock dual port bypass valve and an install of your aftermarket blow-off valve. First and foremost, you're definitely going to need extensions here. I have a 10 and an 18-inch extension, which you're going to use both of them together. A flathead screwdriver for taking the clips and the hose clamps off. A 3/8 drive ratchet with the complete SAE and metric set. Up to a standard number. I think these go up to 22 mil and 17, not 22 mil, sorry. Yeah, 22 mil. So this is going to be mostly a metric job, so you're not going to really have to worry about SAE too much. Needle nose pliers for taking off the C-clamps, and some WD-40 to lubricate the ends of the blow-off valve so they slide in nicely. So the first thing we are going to do, and as you can see, I'm already missing a clip here because it's in the land of the lost down there somewhere and I can't find it, which is pretty half-assed of me, but the first thing you're going to do is want to take off these 2 clips right here, and they come off by simply turning just until the screw head pops up. And you get your flathead, and you can even use your hand, to be honest with you, to pull it out. And they come out very easily, not like the Honda clips that break all the time. Put those in a safe place. And once you remove your second one, you want to go ahead and, hold on, let me get my GoPro stand out of the way here. Go ahead and remove your chute for your air intake and just set it aside. So, in case you guys are wondering where this actual bypass valve is, it's down there. It's a very, very tight spot. So, to make this a less tight spot, we have to take the fan out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the tripod mount, so that way I have both my hands readily accessible. So, as you can see, we're going to take off this fan here. We're going to be using a 10mm socket with a 3/8 drive ratchet. The bolts that are actually in here are kind of a pain in the ass to take out. It's not just loosening them and taking them out by hand. You actually have to loosen them all the way or 3/4 of the way with the wrench. I really don't know why it's that way. It doesn't look like maybe the place that it screws into might be kind of like a lock thread or something. But just go ahead and take these out, and once this is complete, then you can take out the plug that's on the bottom, and the fan just slides out nice and easy. This is actually one of the easier vehicles that I've worked on in my experience, and I'll be honest with you, I think this car is going to be a very, very easy car to work on as far as more complicated parts as well. So now you're going to grab your needle nose pliers, and I know I don't have a video shot of this, but you're going to want to go down and use the pliers to push down on the tab to pull the wire connector out. Doing it with your fingers sucks. So just hold the plier in one hand and press down with your index finger on the clip and pull out at the same time. And you really shouldn't have any issue getting the clip out at all. And I'll show you at the end of the clip here what it looks like when it's detached from the fan and how easily it just comes right out. So yeah, bear with me here. I was having a bit of difficulty getting it out, but I got it finally. So you can see the wire there. I just pulled it right out, and the fan just whoop, slides right out, no problem. Alright, so the next thing you guys want to do is remove your basically your engine cover, whatever this thing is, the plastic cover on top of the engine, and it's got those two little plastic clips that can be kind of a pain in the ass because they're kind of tucked underneath and it's hard to get a screwdriver in there. But do the same thing with both of them. And the important thing to remember is to always be gentle with these plastic clips because they tend to fucking break all the time. And your plastic cover should literally just lift off. Now there's two little push pins in here that slide into rubber grommets. You just want to lift up on it and it should pop right up and come right off for you. Go ahead and set that aside as well. So now you have the top of your engine exposed here, and you're going to want to take your flathead and you're going to want to loosen the hose clamp on the intercooler piping just so it's loose enough to move by hand. And this is just pre-loosened for a reason, and what you're going to be doing is I'll put the camera down there, but you got two bolts, you got one there and one there that you have to loosen on top of these two vac lines that have to come off. And once you get those vac lines off, you can access that second bolt that's back there. It's fairly easy. It's not too bad. Make sure you take off all your hoses, including the vac line on the actual bypass valve, and make sure you don't lose anything because it's a pain in the ass to get it back if you lose it. So we're going to go ahead and remove those two bolts and the vac lines. I know the camera angle sucks here, guys, but what I'm doing is I'm just removing the C-clamp off the big vac line and pulling it upwards. And I tuck that right behind the cam sensor wire. It's so easy and out of the way. Then I pull the small one off and just set it aside. And be sure to remember to take off the vac line off the top of the bypass valve as well. You don't want anything connected. So the two bolts that hold on the intercooler pipe are fairly easy to get to once all the vac lines are off. I highly recommend having a magnetic tool or grabber or magnetic sockets to pull the bolts out, because you will lose them and it will be a pain in the ass to get them if you don't have those kind of tools. The first time I did it, I had to lift the car up and stick my hand underneath the skid plate to fish around for the bolt that I dropped. So it takes a 12mm socket and a 10 and an 18-inch extension for ease. And as you can see, it's very easy for me to reach the bolts. And I'm using a 3/8 drive, and so I'm showing you here 12mm is where you want to be, plus the 10 and the 18-inch drive or extensions. So just go ahead and loosen them all the way until they're completely out of the holes. Try not to pull them out of the holes so you don't drop them into the engine bay. And once those are loose, you're going to move on to the next step, and that's actually pulling up on the bypass valve to remove the dual port section that points down, and it can be a pain in the ass. So I'll be showing you guys how to do that next. Okay, so now that we've removed or loosened our two bolts here to the point where they're completely out of the threads, we're going to go ahead and, let me get this down there, we're going to go ahead and loosen this hose clamp that's actually holding the bypass valve into the intercooler pipe. Just to the point where you can loosely move. As you see, it wasn't very tight to begin with. And the next thing you want to do is, you can see that there's a vac line right here. You're going to want to pull that off as well and just leave it hanging. Now, you want to get your needle nose pliers here, and you see down here you got a C-clamp. This thing is a pain in the this is just a pain in the butt, so just bear with it. You want to depress it and try to lock it, but just bring it up just like that, and it should loosen the bottom part of the bypass valve, and you should be able to pull up on it very gently because it is plastic. So go very easy on it when you pull it up. So I'm going to set this down. I don't even know if that's even in the shot. What's going on? So you just want to, it's a pain. You gotta wiggle it. You just want to go easy on it. You can even go down with the clamp instead of up. Up might be worse. So if you go down with it, you might be able to get out. There we go. You just want to work it up little by little. And your bolts may still be holding on, so you can pull them out if you want, if you can reach them. You just want to go nice and easy, wiggle it up. It's almost stuck. Okay. It appears our other bolt is stuck, so maybe not. Maybe imagining things. Maybe just really in there. Oh, okay. Whew. So now that that's out, all you do is lift this. Make sure you don't lose your bolt. So go ahead and grab your bolt first before you do anything. Okay, pocketed that. Now all you want to do is just kind of lift up and wiggle until the pipe comes off. And there you have it. There's your stock bypass valve, your intercooler piping, and we're going to go ahead and remove this and put our aftermarket one on. Okay guys, so what you really want to do here is just try to remember it's plastic. Go very easy on it. You're going to want to wiggle and twist it and try your best to go nice and easy on it. It can be a complete pain in the ass to get out. So you can try and spray WD-40 around it. Make sure that hose clamp's loose, as I'm going to show you in a second. The hose clamp that I had actually was still a little tight, which is why I was having difficulty getting it out. Okay, so I've gotten it out, and we're going to go ahead and put our new one in. I'm going to put a little bit of WD-40 in there just to give it a little lube, even though it's not technically a lubricant. It does help the parts slide in nice and easy. So as soon as I'm done playing with the hole, you take the larger part of the blow-off valve, and you want to just put the remaining WD-40 on there, and you're going to press it into the hole. Remember that the insert is plastic, so you want to be very careful and try not to scar anything. You want to do like a side-to-side wiggle motion to get it to pop in. The first try I had a really difficult time getting it in, but the second time it went in just fine. So now you want to position it properly to line up with the bottom port hole that's in the car. So just go ahead and tighten your hose clamp, but not wicked tight, just enough so the hose clamp doesn't move. And go ahead and reinstall your intercooler pipe. And you want to make sure that that rubber grommet on the bottom has a little bit of lube on it too. It'll seal a lot better. And you can go ahead and reinstall your intercooler pipe and just try to be careful. Okay, so now that we have our bypass valve on our intercooler pipe, you want to install that secondary bolt, the one that's on the inside first, because it is really hard to get in there unless you have a mag tip to hold the bolt in there. And unfortunately my tools are from Harbor Freight and don't have magnetic tips. So what you want to do first is you want to set this on the intercooler piping first, and you want to make sure this rubber grommet goes on. This is hard to do with one hand, but you want to make sure this rubber grommet is on there, because that thing's a pain in the ass to get around. And if you're having trouble getting this on, spray some WD-40 on the lip, and you'll notice it goes on so much easier. See? Boom, look at that. No issues. WD-40 and duct tape, man. Okay, so now we have to focus on getting this in the hole. You know, make sure that the dual port gets down into its home. So you can even use WD-40 for that too. And I just tend to spray just a tad on there. I mean, that was actually kind of a lot, but I guess the more the merrier, right? Just try not to get it inside the piping, the duct. So, first things first. Okay, so it's seating in the hole. You got to kind of put it in as an angle and then gently push down on it. This can be a pain in the ass, but here we go. See how it slid right in? It slid right in there, no problem. Very easy. So then you're going to want to take your nose pliers, grab that C-clamp that's down there, pull it up. So now the next step is you want to make sure this hose clamp is tightened, and you want to make sure you get your vac line on the blow-off valve. So we'll just do that now. Go ahead and grab our vac line here, and they give you with this kit this little baggie, and it has a coupling, whatever you want to call it, in it. Just go ahead and put this down and show you exactly what's going on here. So we got our hose out and our coupling. This may seem a little shoddy to you, but there's not a lot of pressure going through this line. It's just a vac line. So you want to just put this in there like that. Press down. Get this first lip into the pipe like that. And then I don't know if you can see that, but this is going to go into here like so. So let me just press that in there real quick. So now you have it together. And you can use the zip ties to... So now that we've got our back line taken care of here, as you can see I zip tied around the larger pipe. Excuse me. You're going to want to tighten your hose clamp down on the main port of the blow-off valve and do it nice and tight It's no longer a plastic interior, it's now aluminum. So you can go pretty damn tight with this, and you should be okay. Just make sure you got the hose clamp in the right spot. Definitely helps to have it at a convenient angle. Alright, so that's nice and tight. Just for knowledge base, I tightened the head of the blow-off down all the way. I was having a problem with another blow-off valve that I installed where the engine was cutting out because the spring was not stiff enough, and it was causing vacuum issues, and the engine would stall, but it would only stall at really high RPMs when I would dump the clutch. Not dump the clutch, but just depress the clutch from like 6 to 6,500 RPMs. And as the RPMs dropped, it just went down too far and the car would just die. So I think that was the RFL valve, and they said that it required 8 washers for it to work. So I just decided to go with the hybrid valve because it has the dual ports. I don't have to worry about plugging that bottom hole. And I really don't want a blow-off valve that's extremely loud like that one. I wanted it at first, and then... So anyway, we're going to return our vac lines back to where they belong. And as you remember from before, I took this vac line off. And you just want to reinstall like so. Slide it up. And you want to make sure you got the right end. Sorry, there's a thicker end and a thinner end. The thicker end goes on the, I believe on the top. Yeah, I had it right the first time, I think. And these are also vac lines. These don't have pressure in them that is extreme. So, yeah, no, I did have it wrong. The bigger end goes on the bottom, and the skinnier end goes up top here. Takes a little bit of oomph to get it on, but once you do, it slides right on. Okay, so now we have our... This is heat shield, so make sure you have that. Now, what I like to do is I like to zip tie this vac line to that skinny one I just put on because I don't want it touching the, this looks like the cam gears. The cam sensors are right here, and the way the Boxer is designed, I think there's, yeah, I think this is where the cam gears are. Excuse me if I'm being ignorant and I'm talking shit and I don't know what I'm talking about, but you want to grab a bigger zip tie for this. Black zip ties are better than white. I think they're weatherized or something like that. So you just want to go ahead and put the zip tie on there. And lastly, you can see that this has been installed correctly. You want to tighten down on your hose clamp on the intercooler pipe because this is what has all the pressure in it. So you really want to make sure this is tight. I forgot to tighten this a few weeks ago when I was installing the RFL, and I blew the line and installed the engine. So you want to make sure you do things right. So we're going to go through a checklist here that I want you guys to follow when you find that you're having issues, and you forget what you took off and what you're putting back on. So you want to make sure your hose clamps are tight. So you start up top. This hose clamp has to be tight. This rubber grommet has to be on. All your vac lines have to be on. Okay, so now after realigning this pipe, which is a complete ass, you want to just go ahead and tighten your bolts down. There's a rubber grommet. There's no gasket. Well, it's technically a gasket. At the bottom of the intercooler pipe, so if you're concerned with oh crap. Another tool I'd like to introduce is the magnet stick. So what just happened is really useful. I think I dropped the bolts about 5 times trying to get this back on. Technically this isn't supposed to come off because it's a lock tip. But you want to tighten these down pretty good, but don't go crazy. Remember, it's an aluminum block. The threads are not made of iron. Actually, iron probably is ruining threads. But you want to make them good and tight. Okay. So, this always gets stuck down there. God damn. Okay. So now that we have our bolts tight, I'm going to reinstall this vac line because you can't tighten that back bolt with this vac line on. Apparently. Because I forget things. I'd say this job, if you've never done it before, will take you in total probably an hour to take off and put on. So it's not too time consuming. Now you want to go through your checklist. Make sure this hose clamp's tight. This is on. These two bolts are tight. All your vac lines are back where they belong. Vac lines on the blow-off valve. Vac lines were placed up top here and down bottom. Now for testing purposes, you don't have to reconnect your fan because you're just going to be starting the car and testing it briefly. Not long enough for the engine to get too hot. So I haven't started the car yet this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and let it warm up, and then I'll be testing it. Alright, so the car is now semi-warmed up. It's resting at about 1,000 RPMs. Fully warmed up, it sits at about 70 to 750. So we're going to go ahead and do 4,000 RPM, then a 6,000 RPM. That was 5. Okay, no vacuum issues. We're going to go do it again. As you can hear the blow off, it's actually a little bit louder. Car's in neutral, emergency brake is on. There's nothing out of the ordinary here. Of course, I'm not driving. But the real problem I was having was when I would rev it to 6,500 and then let it drop and it would stall. So we're going to go ahead and try that now and see if we have the same issue. None whatsoever. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and take this for a test drive. Okay guys, so I've done a few hard pulls on this. Maxed out at 18.8 PSI because I'm on a back road with people walking kids and stuff, so I'm not going to do any hard pulls until a few seconds from now. And so from what I've seen from a 6,000 RPM pull on the street and at the idle, it retains its vacuum very well. No problems thus far with this blow-off valve, and it actually sounds quite nice. It's not too loud, not too quiet. Definitely lets people know that you have a turbo. Now I don't smell anything different with the fuel, like it's running rich or running lean, and you can definitely tell when something's not running right. And of course I use 93 in this car, so you're supposed to use 93 in this car no matter what. Now right now we're going to do a decently hard pull. I'm going to let it drop down to about 2 so I can build up some boost here. So looks like I'm only able to get it to about 18.9, which means I could have a boost leak because I used to get it to 20. It could mean that I need to stiffen my spring. See, right now I got it to 18.9. I don't know what the deal is with that, so we're gonna go ahead and turn around here. Go this way. Sounds real nice. Blows off real nice. We're gonna go ahead and reset our boost again. I'm gonna go ahead and try to figure out why we're having issues with pressure here. can't even get it to 20 psi like I used to. So I may have to stiffen the spring a little, but overall, sounds very nice, sounds very clean. I don't see any issues other than the PSI not being able to get to 20, which was no problem for me at all at one point in time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll be coming out with some new tutorials very shortly, installing various other parts like the Mishimoto cold air intake. Even though they have a tutorial online, I'll give you guys a review of the part, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.